Flosstube. It's Jen, also known as Quirks and Stitches. Sorry it's been so long. Life happens and it just sometimes just means that you don't film. Trying new setups again. I still haven't filmed consistently enough to get this new house thing done, and we've almost been in the house for a year and a half, so really it's not new house anymore. It's just I need to start filming more regularly. So I'm here, I'm in my craft room surrounded by I have so many piles of stuff, it's ridiculous. And then I had the lighting all sorted, and then the sun shifted, and so I have no idea. I'm just I can't anymore. I'm just gonna do it. So I'm home from work. It is a Monday, October 11th. Got home from work and was like, I'm doing this. I was all set to film yesterday, was all geared up for it, right? And got a new computer because I want to film more regularly. So I was like, I need to consider, it's been many years since I had replaced my Mac, so I was like, I'm gonna get a nice computer, it's gonna be my filming, I'm gonna do this, I've got plans, and realized that it doesn't have USB ports anymore. So I couldn't connect my webcam, couldn't connect my mic, couldn't do any of that. So I was like, okay, plan on hold. I'm going to iron all of the things. I'm going to make a list of all the things I'm going to show. I'm going to prepare them all around me and keep the animals far, far away. And I'm going to get this so that I can actually come in and have a somewhat cohesive plan of what I'm going to do. I have a feeling it's going to be a whole lot of rambles today, guys, because A, I'm out of my practice. Haven't done this in a while. B, it's the afternoon, which is not my most intelligent time of the day. Mornings used to be, but fun fact, ask my husband how I am in the mornings now. It's kind of a terrible thing. I don't know. During the whole being home and working from home and this pandemic and everything, my head kind of got a little nuts. So I went on some anxiety meds, and I am the groggiest person I've ever met in the morning now. So I live on my coffee and rely on that hardcore. And I need a solid good hour to wake up, which is something that has never happened in my life. I was always been in education, so I've always worked and was at work by 7 o'clock. Now I'm lucky if I'm rolling out of bed by 7:30. But I have my coffee, and this is a little mug given to me by a friend, Kia B. She knows me well and knows that my spreadsheets are my love language. So I'm drinking my coffee. I'm going to remember to breathe, center myself. I'm not going to drink my coffee every 2 seconds because I tend to do that too. I'm going to tell you about my plan for this video. Hopefully it will pan out. We shall see. So not only do I have stuff all around me, I have chairs staged to put stuff on when I'm done showing it. I should have brought another bin over. Oh well. Do I have an empty? Look at that. Even prepared when I didn't realize I was going to need to be prepared. I've missed this, guys. Thanks for encouraging me to come back. It's been a while. I think the last time I filmed was April. That was the last marathon we did. We had a marathon in July, but I did not participate because I had just accepted a new position, and life just got a little overwhelming and I just couldn't commit to it. So I thought I was going to be able to take some time off, but I couldn't. I'm still with the same company that I was working with. I work with Head Start, for those of you that are familiar, but I was a teacher coach. So I would go into classrooms and I would help the teachers out. And now I am a quality teaching specialist. So I supervise some coaches and try to help them. And I'm working in a different component area, whereas whole big thing, but different component area, much closer to my house. So now my commute is literally 2 miles, which is amazing. I was driving 45 one way before. So it's been it's been great. So, and I'm loving my new role. I just miss my old team a lot. Before I left, I kitted them all up cross stitch, and we did a like team bonding cross stitch day. And they all stitched these little cows because we have this joke about cows. So we all have a little cow. And then for my going away gift, my mom made the Meet Your Project bag and kitted them like a little thing that made me think of them. And they've all worked on them. I'm so proud of them. Like, teaching cross stitch is harder than I thought it was going to be. And then they actually, they followed through. I was like, this is so fun. So I left them and I'm with a new team. And I felt like I started the year off right with like, had them to my house, did this whole like team building thing here and stitched them all that It's You I Like, because I used to be very private about my stitching. It wasn't part of my real life, and I've kind of realized it is my real life. So if you don't want to hear about it, you probably don't want to be part of me. Thankfully, you guys like to hear about it, so that is nice. I have a lot going on. You know, outside of work, I was on this mission to get under 40 WIPs before I turned 40. I started that last August. So I turned 40 on February 22nd, 2022. 2/22/2022. 40. And it's on a Tuesday. It's all Tuesdays. Well, it's not really. But it's the second day of the week. No, it's on a... I don't remember. But it's on a Tuesday, so it sounds like 2. I was born on a Monday, which always made me really sad because I wanted the alliterativeness of the 2/22, born on a Tuesday. But I was born on a Monday, which when you think about it is actually the second day of the week, so it's more of a 2 than a Tuesday, but... Don't you love how my mind works? Not sure I do. But... So I've been working on that to get under 40. Originally, I planned to do it by my birthday, but then I had this insane idea that I should start 222 projects next year. We'll get to that. So I kind of upped my finished deadline for the under 40 to January. That I want to start 2022 with under 40 WIPs. I'm pleased to say I have made that goal. I'm currently sitting at 38, I believe. Oh, I am going to have to pause because I don't have one of my current things that I'm working on. So I did that. So today's plan. It's going to kind of be a long parade of things because I started my under 40 by 40 goal in August. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the projects that I've finished because I finished a lot, and I want to make sure that you guys can see them. Also, I have no idea what I showed you the last time I filmed, so some of them you may have seen before, but I'll be brief with the finishes that were prior to January because I think I showed them to you, but I don't remember. And I just didn't have time to go back and look, so I'm sorry about that. Then what I'm going to do, I did a poll on my Instagram last night to see if you guys cared about seeing my WIPs or if you wanted me just to show the finishes. It was pretty resounding that you guys wanted to just see everything. So what I'm going to do is in the comments, I'm going to link when each segment starts. So the time for the under 40 WIP, once I stop rambling about all this like stuff I have. Then for the finishes, so I'm kind of doing it backwards because usually you do your WIPs and then you do your finishes, but I'm going to do my finishes and then I'm going to do my WIPs. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about 222 and what's happening with that and my planning for that because I wanted to kind of involve you. My plan was to really like have you guys involved in that process, and then I stopped. But I'm going to kind of walk you through, catch you up to where I am with that planning because it is kind of I don't know what I'm thinking most of the times when I decide I'm going to do something. So it's like, I'm going to start 222 projects for the year. I'm going to cook 222 new recipes. I was on this like whole thing, and then I was like, I'm going to make myself insane, and it is going to be the least favorite year of my life. So I'm not doing that anymore. We'll talk about it, but I'm not going to commit myself to all of that. So I've learned a little bit in my wisdom. I don't have any wisdom. I'm insane. That's the plan. But we got to do a little bit of housekeeping prior to getting started. So my rambles will stop in a little bit and you can see actual stitching. But it's been busy. Like I said, I did not participate in the July marathon for 24 hours. We do have a marathon coming up, so if anybody is watching and wants to know more about that, there is a Facebook group. That is the most up-to-date way to find out about 24 hours. We do have a website, but I'll be honest with Brandon. He started a new job after we started the website, and I don't know the program we use for it, so I haven't kept it up. So the best way is Facebook, but you can always email me or message me on Instagram for more information on it. But we have a marathon coming up October 22nd through the 24th. It's a Friday through a Sunday like we usually do. So that is coming up. So you can be looking forward to that. I have been getting some questions about the planner. So goal, be honest, I haven't done much with it. I have ideas galore. Although I looked last year and I was like, okay, I didn't start working on this yet. I'm so good. I'm in that pre-forming process. It should be out end of November. So it's not that I haven't worked on it. It's just like I have a system. And then I'm hoping end of November, early December-ish. Same time frame as last year. So that will be coming. You guys see my new burn? So I was listening to an audiobook on my phone, and I was cooking dinner, and I went to the pantry, which is in my hallway, so I put my phone in my bra, and I went, and I bent down then when I got back to the kitchen to check on the roasted potatoes, and my phone fell in the 450-degree oven, face down in the oven, so it kept playing the audiobook. That was kind of funny. So I panic, because it's your phone, and so I go to grab it, and it stuck because it had a plastic case on it. And so I went to grab it again and I got it out. And so I take the plastic, it's all stringy and everything off. So I take it off and I'm all set. And then I look at my arm and I thought some of the plastic had melted and was here. I thought it just got stuck. No, it was my skin. So I have a nice little remnant of when I saved my phone from the oven. I don't like it, but it's there to stay, I think. So, little side note. Backstory. Okay. Other housekeeping that happened. You stitchers are some amazing people, and I want to apologize that I probably don't have everything sorted and organized and together enough, but I wanted to acknowledge some of the amazing people that have blessed me. So I'm going to do this, and the next time I will catch up with anything that I didn't have right around me today. So first and foremost, I talked about doing this 222 project, and I'm trying to be very mindful of stash and supplies and things like that. So I'm trying not to just go out and buy 10,000 different colors and things like that for these things. And Mary Ellen on Instagram reached out to me and asked if she could give me some floss. So I figured, I was like, well, sure, that's so generous. And she had some color in cotton, and she just wasn't using it and didn't like converting, and so she was like, would you be able to use this? I was like, sure. And so I figured it was gonna be 10 skeins. I was like, can I pay for shipping? Whatever. Wouldn't let me pay for anything. And then I come home and I get this package. And guys, I mean, there aren't words to, I cannot even, there's another one, cannot even express, that is, I was blown away. So Mary Ellen, thank you so much. I am planning to use it in tons of conversions that I am working on. first and foremost for my year at Hawk Run, because I really would like, I know you stitch that too, and so I just, and it's going to be a piece that's going to go with me all year long, so I really would like that to be. I'm going to pause for a second though, because I just realized, I thought I did. Oh, I have it. I don't have to pause yet. I'll have to pause later, but I don't have to pause yet. Another person that reached out that was like, again, completely blown away, had no, was, and now I'm blanking on the store name. She just messaged me yesterday. It's a new shop in Minnesota, and it is Welcome Stitchery. I'm going to make sure that I have that. Justine from Welcome Stitchery. Where is it? Yeah, Welcome Stitchery. Justine said that she wanted to, for my birthday next year, kit me up 2 projects. I was like, oh my goodness. That's amazing. So I had contacted her and I said, oh, are you sure? Like, really? So she said, yep, just tell me what fabric and floss you need and I will do it. So I had her, my first project that I'm going to be doing is, the In All Things Be Diligent, Exceedingly Diligent by Needlework Press. So she kitted me up. It's a seraphim fabric and the DMC that's going to go with that. So, and she sent it and there were like needle minders included. Everything was like so nicely presented. She's a new shop. She bought a shop and then moved it to where she is. Check her out because her service and the packaging was adorable. And then also she kitted me up for Away We Ride by Blackbird. Like, thank you so much, Justine. So I'm so excited to be able to start these, and I can't wait to see them on the fabrics. I've never stitched seraphim, and another friend who is, again, amazing, my friend Laura, who I met via Flosstube when we did our 24-hour thing at Craft Gallery. She came with her mom. And we've become friends and we stitch and we do like stitching nights, and we've done a couple sales together. I sailed Halloween at Hawk Run with her. We're going to be selling starting on the 13th, the Modern Folk Embroideries Edgar Allan Poe one. So we're both going to be doing that. So she'd given me a piece of seraphim. So I figure I'm going to use that for that. And then she had this whole box. I was at Gen Con. She lives in Indianapolis. I was at Gen Con with Brandon. And so she was like, do you want to meet up? And I was like, okay, sure. So she had taken some time off work and she came, we stitched it. It was kind of a debacle. Barnes & Noble is where we tried to stitch, but their cafe wasn't open. So we couldn't. So we went to Panera Bread. We sat. It was such a delightful day. It was so nice to be able to see her in person and stitch. We do like stitch nights occasionally, but I'm terrible at everything, communication wise. Like I just not good with phones. I don't know what happened. So she gave me a piece of fabric. She gave me this awesome project bag. So I'm gonna put it in there. This really cool needle book that she quilted. I love it. All those colors, they're such me colors. Bunch of patterns. Like, I love these. And then her mom gave me this one, which, those houses. Oh, I cannot wait to stitch it. I'm so excited. So then she goes, and I have a housewarming gift for you. Is this not amazing? I love it. I love it. So I can't wait to get it. As soon as I trust my cats enough, it's going on my couch. This community has blessed me in ways I hope that I can give back to you guys in some small fashion, because I can't tell you how blown away I am by everyone. And then last but not least that I have to mention is my mother. I think I pretty much won the game when it came to moms. But we had this whole thing for our last marathon. We were going to make gifts for each other because it was going to be Christmas in July. I totally remember the conversation, and then it completely left my head. So I go over to her house. It was like the week that we decided we weren't going to actually do the marathon this time. And she goes, well, then I guess I can give this stuff to you. She had been collecting gifts. Forgot. Terrible person. And so she had, I didn't bring everything over. She had scissors. She had like lotions. She had this cool tea thing because we were going to do 12 gifts for each other. How many did she get from me? None. But she made this Not Forgotten Farm and got that it's a little bed to put your scissors on, and she stitched that. She got me the drawer, and I think there's the So Inclined, the bed one too. So thanks, Mom. I think you're pretty cool. So and not to mention that she finishes everything for me and is just kind of my all-around favorite person. Brandon too, I like him a lot. He edits for me and let me buy a new computer. So I have been severely blessed and am eternally grateful to be part of this community. So we are going to get started with some of these finishes though. Like I said, I know there's more stuff that it's everywhere. And I wish I could explain to you this room right now. My mom hates it because nothing's hanging on the walls, but I have stitching in here. So when I started this little journey to get under 40 whips by 40, I believe I had over 100 whips, or pretty close to. So I considered several things. If a piece was really just not calling to me anymore, and I just needed to say, I don't think I'm ever feasibly going to work on it in the capacity that it is right now, I'm going to need to actually abandon it and not just leave it in my WIP list. Those are projects, not that I will never stitch them, but I didn't like my fabric, or I didn't like my floss, or I didn't like the combination of the two. And sometimes if I'm really in with a project and that happens, I'll just restart it and I don't like abandon and restart and like actually take it out of my WIP rotation. These ones, I knew I wasn't in any place right now to restart them. So that is why I've abandoned them. So there are 4 projects that I did decide to abandon, and I will, after the finishes, before the whips, I will show you what those 4 are. But other than that, I was trying to just go through and get my finishes. So I'm going to go ahead and start showing you some finishes. And again, I apologize because I do believe that a few of these you may have seen before. We're just going to go through because I feel like this is the whole process. I started tracking my finishes in August 22nd of 20. So these are finishes that have happened from then until now. And I've worked on some of my other whips. Haven't touched all of them, but I also know that I'm probably not, with the start of 222, going to have a chance to show you, like, do an actual WIP parade. So that's why I'm going to show you the whips again. If you want to see where I was, I will link below the video that I did, because I did a WIP parade prior, like right when I decided to do this under 40 by 40 thing. So you can see where I was then. And like, I believe like this one I think was finished. So this is Prairie Schooler Santa 2013. It's the clock one. I believe it's just like a mystery fabric. It's a 40 count. I think it's like primitive. I don't have the fabrics with me. I can list them below though. I can do that. So this one was my clock one, Prairie Schooler 2013. Finished. All of these my mom and I started during the 24 hours of cross stitch, July of 2020. So she started all of the even years and I started all of the odd years. And then we've just been working to get them finished. You can look, and someplace on all of them we have the date of the year of the Santa, not the date it was stitched. So like this is 2013, and we tried to like incorporate them into with the Santas. Some are easier to see than others, but that one is there. I finished... This one's been fully framed. I think I have 2 that have been fully framed that I finished. I Will Cut You by Lucy Beam. I did a conversion for this one. So it is, I just used colors that I had, and then I had messed up this top thing because I wasn't counting correctly. So I kind of changed how that went and added my initials up there. I love this piece, and I love this frame for it. So I will cut you. Next up is His Eyes on the Sparrow, which I think you've seen. I'm just going to rotate you right now, and my mom's really mad that it's not actually hanging up in my house. I don't know where to put it. But you have seen that one before. So that one got finished. Halloween Medley by Heart and Hand. This one I believe I did with called for colors. It has some buttons, so that's what the blank space is. That will need to be. And this is on a 32 count legacy. I don't understand why sometimes I completely remember what fabric I've stitched on, and other times I'm like, I have no idea what this fabric is. This next one is not fully finished, but I do have the frame for it, so my mom will be finishing it. This is Stars Bright by Lindy Stitches, so it will be straight and actually go in this frame. I did a conversion for the granny squares on the outside. The birds on the inside are the right, and then I just changed where it says we would be together and have it says books. I changed it to games because Brandon and I are more board gamers than readers together, and this was our anniversary stitch, so I started it on our anniversary, and that's why it's there. And I also have no idea what the fabric is. It's either Tarnish or Fathom by Picture This Plus, I believe, but I don't remember which one. I think it wanted to be Fathom, but I think it was labeled Tarnish, so I don't, or maybe vice versa. So I don't know. Also, my mom's going to be making pillows from some of these things, so some of them we've like identified what backing fabric is going to be on it. Need has nothing to do with it. This was by C Street Samplers or something, I think. So this one I started because of Kyle, and I was drinking when I did it. So I purposely, when I did it, I picked all things that would go along with wine because it was like I was a little tipsy and somehow decided I was going to start a new project, and so I started it. So like one of the reds is Merlot, and then one of the brown is dark chocolate. Like it was all things that would go with wine. So I picked this as my backing fabric for it for when it's a pillow. Thanks, Kyle. You're the reason I stitched it. Stitched Quaker Bees by From the Heart. Needle art by Wendy. This one I used called for colors. And it is on, I think, 40 count legacy. Got it done. This is another Santa. This is the 85 Santa. So you can see that his date is down here. On his. And I don't remember. I really just used scrapped when I was doing all these Santas, so I'm not sure what fabric it was. I believe you guys saw this one too. This is Hibernation Day Sampler by Heartstring. It's 36 count, either Meadow Rue or Maple Sugar. And the only thing I changed in the houses aren't filled in the pattern, but I filled them in. Because I didn't like the offset. I love this one. I need to get it framed. I have quite the stack for Paula. This is Peppermint Latte. It's a little Christmas ornament. It was in one of the just cross-stitch Christmases. Again, some of these I'm like, I don't know why I didn't just have them done. This is Casey, I don't know how to say her last name. I don't think she designs anymore. Finish number 11 is Witch's Kitchen by Primitive Hair. This is going to be the backing fabric for it. That is on a 35 count Havana by Weeks Dye Works. It's a freebie pattern that you can find by her, and then I just made it monochromatic instead of adding because it was two-toned, but swapped that up a little bit. Amos Fig by Plum Street. I think this is Pearl Barley, maybe? I did a conversion for the colors. I am going to be starting Tilly next year as well. Funny story, my first car was Amos, means the carrier of burden. And my grandmother or my aunt, somebody was named Tilly, my grandma's mom or my dad's grandma, I don't, not my grandma's mom, it's my grandpa's mom, Tilly. So, I'll be doing her as well during 222. Finished Skeleton Keys by Not Forgotten Farm. This is with DMC. It's on 36 count Maritime White, I believe. I love that one. Forgot how much I love that one. Finished 14 was Boo to You, the owl. I have them all to do. I've done the cat and the owl. Eventually I'll do the rest. These are on 35 count mink by R&R, and I had the same fabric to do the rest of them in. My house has like it's not a porch because it's like an enclosed porch, I guess. I don't know. It's got like our exposed brick on the inside and stuff, and so I've kind of made that like birds. So, and then I have a whole little like Edgar Allan Poe section that's crows and ravens and that kind of stuff. So I did this one. This is the Crow Sampler? No, Crow's Lullaby by Primitive Hair. This is on 32 count Fog and by Picture This Plus, and it's just with DMC. I love how this turned out. So, I don't generally enjoy 32 count now, so I've kind of been trying to finish up all my 32 count because I don't love stitching with 2 strands. Finish this Witch. This is by Lottie Da, and I think this is Christmas in Williamsburg by Under the Sea. I love how it turned out. I don't know, I just picked some variegated black to do it with. So we are getting, these are now like December finishes. Nope, that was still October. So now these are finishes that have happened in December. This is Plumberry Sampler by Bent Creek. I've done all of the it's Redbird Sampler, Brown. There's a series of 4 of them. So I've done all those. This is very similar, has the same feel as those, except it's a little smaller. And it's on some sort of 32 count. Finished this little spool. Sorry, I didn't take it out of the bag. This is by Needlework Press, but it's the alphabet spool, so it's all... I'm telling you, this made my hand cramp more than any... it was so hard to stitch on such a narrow thing. Oh my goodness, it was tough. It challenged me, and I was like, it's such a little thing. It shouldn't be challenging me as much as it is, but it did, and it took several settings to get it done. But I got it done. This is Blue Snowman by Little Stitcher. It's in Just Cross Stitch Christmas. 35 count mink by R&R. Sir William Black by Scattered Seed. I have Isabella done too, or Isabel. And so they're both on 40 count Legacy. I love them. And there's something about animals dressed as humans that I just really like. This is the 2001 Santa. So you can see it on the little... It's the pear tree. My maiden name is Barenbaum, which means pear tree. I gravitate towards those things. Well, I don't gravitate towards them, but like, I remember my best friend's mom used to sing A Partridge in the Pear Mom. So, Pear Tree, Pear Fabric, I believe it's Pear by Lakeside. This is the 97 Santa. I do not know which fabric this is. Sorry, guys. This is the 91 Santa. This is on Havana by Weeks Dye Works. This was the piece that got me back into stitching. Can't believe it took me so long to finish it. I picked up the pattern when I lived in Virginia at Cross Stitch Station in Waynesboro. And it is Prairie Moon, Merry Xmas. There are so many 3/4 stitches in this thing. I stitched it. It's a 32 count. I'm not sure what 32 count it is. It's some sort of tealish blue, grayish thing. And then I did the called for colors. It's so funny because on the pattern, the dress really looks a lot pinker, but it's a very, very subtle pink. I did it. It's with silks, and then I just did it with one strand, and I'm very happy with the coverage on it. But I can't believe this piece took me as long to stitch as it did. I love it. And again, it was like I went to a cross stitch store and was like, oh my goodness, look at their skeletons. This is Winter Squirrel. I think it's Rosewood Manor. My mom did all of those things because I just could not get it. It's 36 count Dove by Weeks Dye Works. You've got Seeking Refuge. Mom and I did this together during one of our marathons during the pandemic. Love this piece. And I think it's Legacy. I think it's 40 count Legacy. I did the called for colors. She did the DMC. And she changed her phrase up a little bit. This one is also finished. My mom finished this one for me. This is the All Hallows Needle Queen, the needle book by Primitive Hair. So this is the back scene. And then this is the inside of it. And my mom has this little magical way. You stitch it upside down. She sets it up for me, and then I stitch it, and then she finishes it. So it's all one piece of fabric, so she didn't have to piece anything together. It's adorable. I love it. And I think it's Heartland. I think it's 36 count Heartland. I have a couple of these that I'm planning to start during 222. Guys, I've been having this whole thing where I'm like, I have the wrong year listed on the December things on my list because I'm saying it was in 20. I forgot that the year didn't end in December. It's been a long day. This is May Luck Be Yours, and it's by totally blanking right now. Hands. I can picture her. It'll come to me. It's one of the chalkboard series. It's not Heart and Hand. It's terrible. It's on a piece of 18 count Ada black. Hands across. No, hands. I can't just not know what it is now. So give me a second. Hands-on designs. Like, you know it's a hand. And then this was my last finish of 2020. So this is the Coffee Bean Sampler by Heartstring Samplery. I added a quote down here and just did, there is always time for coffee. I want all these things on my coffee wall. I love this. It's stitched on 36 count Java or Old Mill Java or something Java by R&R. So those I finished in 2020. Now we're getting to the ones that I finished since 2021 started. Prairie Schooler Santa 89. Prairie Schooler Santa. Not yet, but I jumped the line a little bit. This is 95. This is on Almond Bark, I think, by Weeks Dye Works. Choose your own motto. All I'm saying is you've never seen me crying and eating tacos at the same time. True statement. Making tacos tonight. 40 count Starflower by Lakeside, with called for colors except for the yellow, which was a gift. And it's Queen Bee, I believe. Love it. Love it. Love the saying with the frame. It was my birthday start in 2020, so it's a favorite. Prairie Schooler Santa 2017. This is on Ale by Picture This Plus. Coffee Quaker by Heartstrings, samplery. Called for colors, I believe this is Flagstone by Lakeside. Jenny Bean's Friendship Sampler. I ended up changing the bottom a little bit. I think it was supposed to be straight stitches or satin stitches, and I didn't want to do it. So I did X's, and then I didn't do it for as like big of a section or something. Very happy with how it turned out. This is a 36 count Mallow, something like that. Pandemonium up there is also stitched on the same fabric. So at this point, like, I was just trying to like pick pieces and just like knock them out. So I really pretty happy with the amount of projects that I got done with, like, big projects. This is May I by All Through the Night. And the original piece says, may I a small house and a large garden have? Well, I am like the least outdoorsy person you're ever going to meet. So I changed it to a large stash. So that I will utilize. And this is 32 count Echo by Picture This Plus, called for colors. Except for, I didn't have any picnic baskets, so I subbed in the DMC equivalent for the brown. I love how this turned out. Love it, love it, love it. And I discovered the miracle of recharting things on my iPad with that piece, because I hate to rechart words, but when you, like, I loaded the pattern into GoodNotes and it was like seamless. Like, it was, I could blot it out and I could like move things around. It worked so well for me. So I was really excited. This is the 87 Santa. He's cute. This is a biggie that I got finished. This was one that I was stitching with my friend Laura. We were doing a block a month. I beat her and she hasn't finished hers yet, and her mom keeps telling her, Archie, you don't want to disappoint Jen. I love it. I did a conversion for this. I had pulled all the DMC and then I just did a stash conversion. So it's definitely not perfect. I do have it in my notes if anybody wants it, but it's like all different categories or dyers and stuff, whatever I had on stash that I thought might work. And then I subbed kind of here and there as I went. But I love it. And some of the DMC is like called for. Like the blues and the water, I just kept called for. Because trying to find converted blues that did that, I didn't think I could. I especially love how the full coverage black down at the bottom came out. So it was so much fun to stitch. And I kept to my block a month, which I didn't really think I would do, but I tried to knock it out. The first of the month I would pull it out and I would just go for it. So, I love having it done. It's not going to get framed for this Halloween season, but next year it'll maybe. I'm terrible at actually framing things. I'm terrible at actually changing things in my house. Still Halloween from last year when I had all that up, so I just really like to stitch. I don't see that next step sometimes. My mom does. My mom is very different than I am. She's like, I have a wall right here. I want something on it. I have a frame that can go in it, and I'm going to use the right fabric. And I'm like, I have this fabric. Maybe I'll find a frame. Some ways I am very much her daughter. Other ways, I guess I'm my father. I'm not sure. That was on, I think, 40 count, properly primitive or purely primitive. Whichever one is not the Under the Sea fabric. It is I think it's a Silk Weaver by Zweigart. Or it's a Zweigart Silk Weaver. Purely primitive? I think that's what it is. I love stitching on it. So, yeah. This is Home Is by Poppy Creations. I did some personalizing on this one. So at the bottom in the pattern, it says Live Simply. And I forget what it says up here. I don't remember. But I put our names and I put established in 2020 because that's the year we got married. And then on each of the houses, I actually put an address that we had, the numbers for a house that we had. And then these 3 are blank because we haven't lived anywhere else yet. So we've lived in 6 different places since we got married in 2020. So it says all the house addresses on it. So it was very personalized. And I was originally going to put Live Awkwardly because I stitched it on Live Awkward Day, but I'm pretty happy that I changed it to suit our lives and be reminiscent of us. This is Emily's House by Lindy Stitches. I love this piece. I love the sentiment behind it. I love the colors. It was my first time stitching with the sulky threads. I don't know if I said that right. That's how I'm going to say it. Yeah, I really love it. I did change up the cats. I'm not super happy with how it turned out, but I was kind of just wanting to be done. So tried to make that one look like a tortie, but I don't know. It just looks way too orange to be any of the torties I've ever owned. And then the one over there really already looked like ale. So I don't know why I'm always so compelled to change cats to look like my cats. I never try to change a dog. Probably because Watson's such a weird looking little creature that it'd be hard to do that. Okay. Raven Bewitched by Blackbird Designs. I did also change this and put EA Poe down at the bottom. I did Nevermore EA Poe. I think it says October 31st or something, but since I have a permanent Poe section out on my porch, I wanted it to be able to be up all year. Because really, if it said October 31st, I couldn't have it up all year like all the other stuff that is always up in my house all the time. I don't know. And I think because I didn't have anybody over to my house, there was no, I don't know. Come visit me and I'll redecorate. Maybe that's what I need to do. I need to plan people to visit me seasonally because then it will force me to change all of my stuff. However, I did have visitors in July and it still was Halloween, so maybe not. Another biggie. Done. Map of Hawk Run Hollow. This is on 32 count light mocha with DMC. And it's one of those, had I started it today, I probably wouldn't have done it with DMC, but I'm happy with how he turned out. I like it. I did change, I think the flag was supposed to have French knots. I didn't do them. I don't love French knots. I'm very happy with how it turned out. And it always surprises me because I'm not one that like sits in railroads and like gets all my stitches absolutely perfectly perfect, because I want to enjoy the process of stitching. So if a stitch is twisted here and there, but it always amazes me how when you iron your stitching afterwards, it's like, oh, it all lays really nice. Like, oh, okay. This looked a lot messier when I was stitching it. And I know there are those of you on Instagram that like zoom in to see how those stitches are laying. Some pieces are better than others. That's why I'm phasing out all 2-strand stitching. This is Lemon Cat by Barbara Anna. This is on 40 Count Legacy by Picture This Plus. I think she is adorable. I'm telling you, animals dressed up. I know that Heather, Link is my homeboy, was doing a birthday sale yesterday, and I was so sad because I was like, I can't start anything new, and I think I've finished all my animals dressed as humans. So I couldn't join in. I love it. And this is Barbara Anna, DMC. I stitched it because Amy did the Sourpuss Sal. Amy, and anything with a good hashtag, I'm in. This is Three Little Kittens by Ink Circles. Called for colors on 36 Count Heartland by Picture This Plus, I believe. Heartland is by Picture This Plus. What I'm saying, I believe too, is that I believe it is Heartland. So our downstairs guest room, our basement is kind of finished. Sometimes it gets water in it, but sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't. But our downstairs guest room, we're doing like childhood nostalgia. And so like I'm doing like nursery rhyme things to go in there, and video game things will go in there because that's our childhood. And so I want this finished as like a pillow to set up, because we have like built in, it's almost like it looks like a camping room. Like, not that I camp, but I feel like it's going to go down there eventually. Or I'll give it to my mom and she can put it in our cat room. This is the 2015 Santa. Okay, and here's another biggie, guys. I was pretty like on myself that this had to be finished this year. Still am not sure what it is that like called me to stitch this. Like, it's very different than my typical style of stitching, but I love everything about it. A peacock, a unicorn, and a badger. I was so excited. I did not do the satin stitches for the water. I just did regular X's. I have texture things. You know, quirks and stitches is the right name for me because I have some things. And I just didn't want to have the different textures. And I was nervous that it wouldn't lay right. And I just wanted to love this piece. So it is exactly how I wanted it. Caution, if you're going to stitch this piece, make sure to count the actual stitches across, because I believe the count on the pattern is different than what it actually is. It says it's a little smaller. And I cut mine a little close, but it worked out okay. I could just sit and look at this all day. I love this piece. I used the DMC. And I just did it. It's like just a piece of random 40 count that I did. And I love the coverage on it. Like, I know I was stitching it and somebody walked by and they're like, okay, I'd use 2 strands. And I was like, okay, I like one, you know, it's all up to you. And do what works for your style and how you like it. So, I loved every stitch to it. If you followed me on Instagram, I pretty much outlined all of the things, and it was like coloring. So it was really just like fill in, and it was very like peaceful, meditative stitching. Because a lot of people have said too, I would just do it on green fabric. And I totally get that. But again, it's that texture thing when I just didn't think it would pop as much if it was on a different texture. Maybe it would pop more. I don't know. For me, I loved stitching the background because that's how I like delineated that I had finished filling in all of the pieces, was then I knew I could stitch around it. So then I got in this like, I'm going to finish all the Santas because I could knock them off my list. So I had finished that big piece and I was just like, give me finishes that I can do. So, a whole bunch of Santas coming your way. This is 2005. Sorry, it's October 11th and it is like 80 degrees here today, so my air conditioning keeps kicking on. This is 2007. Love this one. I changed something with this. I think it was supposed to have like stars or something on it, and I didn't want it to. So I put the date there instead. This is 2019. I love that little sheep. Definitely almost said cow. Do know the difference between a cow and a sheep. I've just been talking for a long time. This is 2003. I love the 2003 on the stocking. Some of the dates, it was fun to try to figure out like where it would make sense to place it. This is 2011. Some of it was really hard. Like, I don't even know where I put that on that one. Maybe I didn't. No, it's on his bag. Found it. It's like a Where's Waldo game now. You come to my house and find the dates on the Prairie Schooler Santas. 19. Not 1999. 1999. That was the year I graduated high school. 1993. This one I almost restarted because it's on like a 40 count ramble, I think, by Picture This Plus, and you can't really see the outline, but I didn't restart it. Sometimes my stories are much better than others. Sometimes it's literally that I didn't. If you followed me forever, you know that I started this series, and when I feel compelled to finish a series that I've started, so I had to. It's just not me. I love Halloween and winter of these, and I love the action of stitching them because I love the blocks and I love the typography and I love that. These colors are not me at all. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this in spring, but I have the whole series finished now. I'm so excited. Jamie, I believe I owe this pattern to you. So once I get the beads sewn on, it will be coming your way. But it's done. And I stopped complaining about it and just finished it. And this is a prime example though, of the whole abandoning thing. If I hadn't enjoyed the process of stitching this for those boxes and the typography, I would have abandoned it. But because that was like, I enjoyed sitting and stitching on it, that's what held it through and made it be a WIP that I would finish. Kind of varies project to project. It's not like a set, yes, this means Jen finishes it, or no, it doesn't. As the Crow Flies by Prairie Schooler. This is on 32 count lambswool, which I hate because it's so stiff. But I love it. Love how it turned out. This is Feather Your Nest by With Thy Needle. Brenda. I love that blue house at the bottom and the pop of the blue eggs. It's hard to tell the colors in this, but it was a fun stitch. 36 count Maritime White by Lakeside. And it stitched fast once I got, actually put time to it. This is Penny Harvest by Tree of Life Samplings. And that is on, I don't know, pear? Navy bean? Maybe navy bean. Get Crackin' by Ink Circles. I did this with the DMC. It's on 40 count, I think, Sand Dune by Lakeside. I love this. Love, love, love. I think for octopuses now, whales. I've kind of added to my nautical, and it's whales and octopuses. Do I like the beach? No. Quaker Diamond by Hillside Samplings. This little over one alphabet was a bit challenging. And then it is charted to have like a contrast color in here and like kind of filling in. I didn't do that. And then I've gone back and forth about the date. I saw someone finished it and had like 20. I might do that, but I'm really just very happy with how it is now. So it may be one that I just sign with like Vanna does and put it on the back. Oh, Molly by Carriage House. These little girls, what can I just say? They have a lot of stitches in them. A lot. This is Molly, also known as Wednesday Addams. I think she's adorable. I did it. Okay, so I've stitched Elizabeth, and I have the other two to stitch. I'm going to be starting Mary Margaret next year. And I've dreaded it because this, again, is that 32 count lamb's wool, which I don't love. And it's one of those, like, I do a series, and I try to do them all the same, and blah, and I have 2 more to do, and I just don't love the fabric. So I've actually decided that I think they'd be cute to have 2 done on one fabric and 2 done on another. So that's how I'm justifying that the next 2 are going to be on different fabrics. And then I just want them like framed in like quirky frames because I just think they're so weird. Like I love these girls. And I haven't decided if I'm going to do DMC or like try to do a conversion with the other 2. This is the DMC. I changed her hair because her hair was like the border color and it was very gray. And so I did change that to, I think, 3371. But I love this. And again, it was one of those where I was like, I hate my stitches. And then you iron it. And it's like, oh, my stitches aren't bad. We talked about over one being a pain. This is Halloweenies by Plum Street. This is on 52 count exemplar by Lakeside. It's so tiny. I love it. So I started it and I kept getting texts from my mom. Are you sure you're gonna like that so small? Are you sure? I had to finally be like, Mom, I like it small. I don't know what you are. Are you gonna be disappointed with that? No, I'm not. I saw it at Craft EU done over one, and I loved it, but I don't like stitching over one, so I thought I can do this in 52 count. And then it was a bit of a chore. I experimented a little bit between using a hoop and not using a hoop, and I ultimately enjoy not using a hoop, but stitching, I can't do the sewing method, so I had to do punch and stab for it. And then, but it worked. So I'm toying with the hardest part of it was when like it was a concentrated color area. So like filling in these little Quaker symbols, the flowers was tough. So I'm thinking that I want to do something in it that's going to be monochromatic. So that's my plan. But I love these. This is where I'm saying like I changed cats to be my cats, but Watson is not a dachshund. She is a dachshund corgi. And I'm not going to change these to look like her. They're so cute, though. I love this series. So, finished that one. Was pretty excited. And then my last finish, which takes me to 62 finishes, Bump in the Night by Prairie Schooler. And this is on dark cobblestone. Just as Zygarde. I don't think it's an overdyed. 62 finishes since August 22nd of 20. And that takes me so that I have 38 WIPs currently. Yay. And I think I'll be able to get some more of those finished. 38 WIPs. I'm going to take a brief break, so I'm going to pause this. I'm going to go get a refill on something to drink because my throat is dry. I'm going to come back and show you about the 4 that I abandoned and why I abandoned them. Then we're going to go through the WIPs that I've got currently, and then I'm going to talk about 222. So I will be back. You guys don't have to go anywhere, but I need a bit of a break because I've talked for a while. Bye, guys. Okay. think I'm ready to finish this out and show you what I've got to show you. I feel like I need to just move some things a little bit farther away so I don't spill anything. So let's talk. I've abandoned 4 projects, and I'm going to explain to you, show you where I was on these pieces and why I've chosen to abandon them. I'm super excited because I just found some more needles. I have to buy some needles in bulk. This piece is Spot of Autumn by the Drawn Thread. Sorry, it's got a glare. I decided to abandon this for a couple reasons. There's a bunch of specialty stitches, and so every time I went to do it, I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't really love specialty stitches. I really love X's. Also, I realized it has like NOPQRS, which I love alphabets, but I wasn't going to do any more in the series, and I had no plans to do the rest in the series. So I was like, why do I want just a pillow that says NOPQRS? And I wasn't loving it. So this is where I was. Decided it was not worth my time to try to finish. So it's done. Off my list. I probably will never go back and stitch on this one again, unless I get the rest of the series and feel compelled to at that point. But it was one that just didn't call to me anymore. So it was getting out of a project bag and not going to be done anymore. I also chose, this was a hard one for me, You're at Hawk Run Hollow. I love You're at Hawk Run Hollow. It's one that I want to stitch, and I want to love when I stitch it, and I just wasn't. So I had started this all on individual squares, and I didn't like the fabric. I didn't like the floss. I ended up doing it was like on a 35 count, and I was doing 2 strands of DMC. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm not always a huge fan of the Carriage House and Kathy Barrick's conversion from NPI to DMC. So I just wasn't feeling it. Decided instead of forcing myself to finish this and be unhappy with the final project when it's a piece that big, it was one that I was going to abandon and restart. So this is one that I'm totally abandoning. I'm starting it again for 222, and we will talk about that. But I'll go through and I'll show you where I was for each block. So this was January, February, March, somehow, April, May, June, and I had started this during a 24 hours, which is why each block kind of got started. July. August was really the block that solidified that I didn't want to do this because the colors were very, very different than what the picture looked like. And then I didn't do any in November or December. August, September, November, December I didn't start, but I got further on the October. And again, it wasn't calling to me. Every time I thought about bringing it out, I kind of dreaded it. And if stitching is supposed to be like my calm and my relaxing, why am I doing something and putting that much time into a piece that I'm not enjoying stitching? There are times I will push through. This just didn't feel like one that needed to be that. So it's gone away. This is another one. I want to love this piece. I love these stockings. They were one of the first things I bought when I started stitching again. Again, from that cross stitch station in Waynesboro. And I started Brandon's. And I was doing it. I don't love the fabric. I don't love the DMC. If I'm going to do this, I need to do my own conversion that I'm going to love the colors, and it's going to have some of the variegation in it because it just feels bland how it is now to me, and it just isn't worth it for me to be doing it. So I'd rather start it over, have it on some probably overdyed fabric, something by Picture This Plus. It's going to give a little modeling, give it a little bit more depth, and just in a way that I'm going to enjoy it because I wasn't loving those colors. And then this one I started with Emily and Diana, the Wild Ass Sal. And this is one I probably wouldn't have necessarily abandoned. I'm not very far on it. It's the It's the Magical Weavers. I do love this piece. I'm not loving my floss choice on this fabric, and this is a whole lot of fabric that I can use a whole lot of different ways for 222. So with only being this far into it and knowing that I am not going to put any solid time to it anytime soon, I just said it was time to be done. So I think that the floss can be repurposed. It was tin bucket, and this is a piece of ale. But I know I have things that will go on this ale that I can start for 222. So that is why I chose to abandon the ones that I chose to abandon. Like I said, I'm very picky and particular about, like I don't just decide to abandon something. I really do put a lot of thought into when I'm going to start things and when I'm going to, striving to finish them. I know that I do massive starts. 222, that's nuts. But I try to work my way through finishes too, so I think I'm proving that I can do that. And I don't love starting projects. Like, I don't love having to pick it up and find out where I'm going to be going and things like that. So I'd rather have a few stitches in on something and know that when I go to stitch on it, it's ready to go and kit it up and good to go there. So that's why I do it the way I do. So there. Attitude from Jen today. Been filming for too long. We're going to go through my WIPs. We're going to talk a little bit about what I think I'm going to put some time into between now and the end of December. What I think might be feasible to be finished between now and then, if I've worked on them at all. And then I'm going to go into 222 to explain, how these will still be worked on next year, because I'm not just starting 222 projects and not working on any of this. I want finishes next year. And I think I said A. I don't think I have a B. So we're just going to show them to you. This is my oldest WIP. It's not really my style anymore. This is one of those, like, do I abandon it? Do I keep it? Decided I enjoy it enough to keep going with it. So, but I'm going to amend it. This is not my style anymore. I like this lettering. I used to write in bubble letters and do that type of thing when I would draw. That's like, I can't draw, so that's what I would do. And it was kind of my form of doodling. But I want it finished just with the Noel and just in a pillow. So, this is my oldest WIP. I have a plan for my oldest WIPs now. This one I want finished this year. So once dark October, there's somebody on my Instagram that every time I post my list, they're like, do Joy X Noel, do your Noel piece, get it done, because it's my oldest. I think every year I want to look at what my oldest WIP is and try to get that finished during that year. That's my new goal. Add it to the list of other goals that I have. I don't really have that much to do on this. I have to finish the E and do the L. I think my holdup is the back stitching on the O is like intimidating to me because it's not straight lines. So this is like a massive piece of fabric. But again, I was going to do it in that hanging. It's going to be like a straight pillow. That's what it's going to be. And I'm probably going to ask my mom to help me with back stitching. And she will, because she loves me. Not sure why. So, my goal is to get this one finished before this year is done. Oldest WIP, don't remember when it was started. The rest have been started 2018 or after. This is Pumpkin Conspiracy. Great Pumpkin Conspiracy by Cross-Eyed Cricket. Stitching this on 40 count Luna. It was one of my Madness starts my first year. I've stitched on it some, not much. This is not one that I'm planning to devote a whole lot of time to because I just don't think it's going to be feasible for a finish. Eventually I'll get back to it though. This one I would actually like to finish, and I may pull this one out after the 13th and see if I can get it done by the end of the month. So I've gotten the house done. And it's just the fill-in in here, which is solid, but that's pretty mindless. I'm going to have a big chunk of fabric then that I can use for something else. And I think I can get it done. So this is one that is planned to be out again in October. I'm stitching this with the DMC. I believe it's a sand dune, 36 count. Vintage sand dune, one of them. I don't remember which. I love this piece, and I don't know if I'm biting off more than I can chew, but I'd like to put at least another week into it and see how far it gets me, and see if then I can try to just push myself through. This is one I probably won't pull out again this year. Treat others as you would like to be treated. If you watched my first 24 hours video, this is the humorous moment at like hour 19 of stitching consecutively that I decided to stitch over one on black. So I don't have too much done on it. It's one that I will pull out and finish eventually, but it's just gonna probably not be now. Again, it's not that big, but it's the fact that it's the over one, and then I have to like think completely differently about it. I'm going in order of when I started them, not when I last worked on them. So they are chronologically that way. The next one is All Creatures, Great and Small by Barbara Anna. This is one that I will not get finished this year, but it is one that I have put some time into. This is on a 40 count sand dune. I do think that I'm going to be revisiting my rotation plan, which is size-based. So I break my stitches into categories based on their size. So I have criteria that determines whether it's a mini, a small, a medium, a large, or a big-ass project. And then I have days set aside to that. So a mini gets 1 day, a small gets 2, medium 3, large 4, big ass 5. Because I feel like then when I pull out, if I'm doing a rotation, I actually get progress. Whereas if I'm just doing like a daily rotation, those huge projects that I tend to start don't actually get much done to them. So that is why I do it in my head that way. However, right now I'm pushing for finishes, so I'm not really. But since I'm under 40, I might ease up on that and try some rotation type. This is Birds of a Feather by Blackbird. I have worked on this some. I keep I don't know what I was doing. I missed colors when I kitted it, and then I messed up on the border. It's one that I think I could pull out and reasonably probably get at least some more done on it. I don't know. I go back and forth whether I want to pull it out now or not. This is not one that's going to get much more love this year. This is Dead Man's Chess. I just know that it's feasibly nowhere near a finish, so I'm not going to do that right now. I went and changed. This is like a grayish green that I decided to do, which I liked better than the color that it was. So I had changed that. I'm not sure what color it is. I can look and find out. But there's so much over one in this that I'm not going to put the time into it that I know it needs right now. Weeping Tree Sampler by City Stitcher. This is another one that has kind of been am I loving this or not? There are a ton of specialty stitches in it, and I don't love the fabric. It's the same fabric I did for Map of Hawk Run, but when I pull it out, I don't hate it. So it's just, I'm not always gravitating towards pulling it out. So it's one that I'll probably decide next year whether I'm going to keep at it or abandon or restart or just let it sit as WIP. I don't know. Eventually I'll decide. Serenity Harbor, which goes this way. Again, not one that's going to get finished this year, but one that I would like to dedicate some more time. It has gotten some stitches on it this year, though. So I'm doing this on just 40 count lamb's wool. DMC. I love it. I love it when I stitch on it. And I'm going to have to trust my mom to trim it or straight or something because it's a pain. It's too big. I don't trust myself to trim it straight, so. This is one that I like Post-it notes. This is one that I would like to get finished this year, and I think that is feasible. Irish Blessings by Twisted Threads. I pulled this out when we were away in Indianapolis, and there's really it goes really fast when you stitch it because it's just the words. But I think that my dried time is old, and so the dye is not like this anymore, and so I didn't want to finish it with this dye lot and then come home and not have anything similar to this, because I think it's like it's very variegated. I don't know if you can tell, like it's, I don't know how to do this. Like it's starkly variegated. So my new skeins of it are not quite the same. They have some of the same greens in them. But so I think I'm going to stitch the middle section with that and then be able to still intersperse and end it with this. So, yeah. I think it can get finished this year, though. That's on a 40 count sand dune, I think. Another one that won't get finished, but it's actually not as intimidating once you like look at it and break it down into tree by tree. And a forest grew. I would like to like try to do like a tree a day or something like that, but I tried that once and it didn't quite work, so I don't know. I'm also going to be changing the poem that goes in the middle of it. It's the scripture right now about the Garden of Eden, and I was going to do the trees of the field will clap their hands, but that reminds me of a song, and I don't really like the song. So I think what I'm leaning towards is actually a poem written by Kevin Smith from DC Talk, who was my like childhood crush. Ask my mom about when I saw them in concert and almost fainted. But he put out a book of poetry when I was in like high school, and because he was my childhood crush, I still know the poem today, but it's about weeping willows, and so I think that's the poem that I'm going to put in there. Wilt thou wilt me wilting why, something like that. Weeping willows when we die. It says the word die, so it makes me smile. I don't know. I'm morbid in a weird sort of way. Numero No Number by Jeanette Douglas. I don't know. I don't have that much left on the. I mean, but there is some over one. It's gotten. I've done a lot with the border this year, though. I think. I don't remember what fabric. It's a 40 count. Life After Death. I would like this to get some more time, but I don't think it'll be a finish. So Days Gone By Silk Weaver. I'm doing it monochromatically with storm clouds, but the whale in the middle is going to be with a gray to make the whale pop. I've been craving just working on this piece too, so it's going to get some love before the end of the year. Autumn at Lazy Bear Mountain. So my attention for the rest of the month of October after the 13th and after I finish a couple of the other small like dark October pieces I'm working on is torn between this and Ghoultide. I think I'm closer to a finish on Ghoultide, so I think I'm going to lean that way. However, if I put more time into this, the amount of floss that this frees out to go to other projects is a lot more than Ghoultide, especially with this being all gassed and Ghoultide being DMC, but I just don't think I'm far enough along. I don't know. I love this piece. This is why I like WIP Parades, because it's like, oh, why haven't I stitched on that in a while? I need to pull that back out. These will get finished before the end of the year. Christmas Cubes by Primitive Hair. They're on 40 count gold. I think a bunch of them are finished, so that's the C. H. They just have like a couple like colors. R. I. S. T. This one has like little bells that are supposed to be there, but I'm not sure I love that, so I may just stitch something in there. M. And then one of these, this is A. And this is the S, which is all I've gotten. I don't even know which way it goes. So, but I think I'll be able to get those done. They counted as individual starts when I started them because I did them for the Mania when I started 50 things under 50, but I'm counting it as one WIP right now. Savior's Praise, not going to get done. It's another one I love when I'm working on it. I just want to be able to dedicate like a week's worth of progress to it so I can get some movement. I think it's flagstone, maybe. It's either that or cedar plank. I never remember. I get those two confused. It might be cedar plank. Lakeside. What's this one? Okay, so this is another one that's on that like cusp of abandon, not abandon. A while ago, Ink Circles put out that kind of choose your own adventure map project, and I started it because I would like to really stitch it for Brandon. But I kind of want to do it like with him, like have him roll the dice and make the choices, and then I just stitch it. So and that's an actual big chunk of fabric. So and I'm really not very far on it at all. So I'm thinking this is probably going to go the way they abandoned. Again, one that could just be restarted later, maybe even next year. But I'd like to involve Brandon more in it because I see it downstairs in our like board game area. So I'm actually going to set that one aside because I am leaning more towards the abandon. Let Freedom Ring will not be finished probably in my lifetime. I am here. I am not doing that top scroll border. It's one that I want to get back to. I love stitching on it, and being a Philly girl, I do want a whole bunch of Philly stuff. So, Cardinal Points will not get finished this year. This is the one I'm doing with my grandma's threads. So I did a conversion on the side, and that is all her threads that I found, I think, after she died. Starflower by Lakeside. Jack's Bash. Probably not going to get finished this year. Just skip that one. Nope, I'm good. This is on a 46 count, so it's a little bit slow going, which I didn't think over real well because there is a bunch of over one in it. I don't know what I'm going to do about that, if I'm going to change up the font. I got all excited because Emily posted that she recharted a saying, and I was like, yes, I don't have to do the over one. I can be like Emily. Except she did the over one. She just changed the words. I really just want to be like Emily. So, this one I think would be an easy finish. It's the... I don't even have it saved in here. It's an Ink Circles... Cauldron Bubble, Burn and Bubble. I haven't stitched on it since I showed it, but I think it's one that I could probably just knock out. So it is a plan to kind of come out at some point this month. This is dyed by Laura, Slavic Farms. A piece of her linen. Or even weave or something. It may not actually get finished, but it's one that I think I could like work on. Be Thankful. This is on 55 count. I would like this finished, but I don't know if that'll happen, but I think it will get worked on more. I had originally started it on a different fabric, and I like the 55 count better, but it is trying. It goes slow. So, again, just can't do that sewing method like I'm used to. Punch and stab a little bit more. Quaker Seasons of Friendship. Started this. Diana had started this, I think, January of 2020 maybe. I love it. Just not going to get finished this year, but I would, again, like to have a plan for it getting out a little bit more. That's where I am on this one. And I don't remember what this fabric is. It's something Lakeside. Which Lakeside wasn't so hard to find right now. This one should be able to get finished this year. This is Stitcher's Sampler. I just have to grab some more garden gate because I have it down with my projects and I don't think I have enough to finish it. Those little bees take forever though, let me tell you. But and just if you are new to this, there is Isabella's from Italy, and so there is a grammatical error. It says feed, not fed on here, but she did rechart it for fed, so you can get that that from her website, I believe. Oh, and then I skipped the one. This is what I'm currently working on, and this will get finished. This is The House That Jack Built 2 by Prairie Moon. And I had started this for Dark October. It's on a 35 count Tiger's Eye, Tiger something by Weeks Dye Works. And I had done it with a black and then like a very vibrant purple and a very like Christmassy green. So I had only gotten a little bit done when I pulled this out the other day, and I ended up pulling out all the purple and pulling out all the green, and I've redone it. It's hard to tell the colors in here. It's not nearly that color. But I'm using a very variegated old skein of gassed sable for this, like this variegated color here. And then any of the vines, I'm using piney woods. So it's much more like primitive colors. I'm much happier with the color scheme. I'm really enjoying working on it, and it's stitching up really fast. Because I just pulled this out on Saturday night, I think. So it's 2 days worth of work. It's really warm in here. But that one will get finished. Plant Wisdom by Brenda Keys. Not going to get finished. I do have to trim the fabric, though, because I have a bunch of extra, I think. Ow. I have a bunch extra that I can use. So I got the border in knowing that I would be able to trim that straight and know where it was supposed to go. The border mat. And I love that alphabet. Sucker for a good alphabet. Thanksgiving Sampler by Lone Elm Lane. I love this piece, and it stitches really fast when I'm stitching on it, but I don't know. Maybe I'll pull it out in November around Thanksgiving. It'll get some love this year, but probably not a finish. Another one that I absolutely love, Sunflower Farm. This was gifted to me before we could. It was when it was just a club kit. And I love this. And I'm doing it on something by R&R. I forget. Strawflower? No, that's Lakeside. Kansas City blend, I think. I love it. It won't get finished before the year's out, but I would like it to get some more love. Another one will not get finished. I start big projects, guys. With Thy Needle, with the Needle 2, Lila Studio. Just have that much done. Pandemic will not get finished, but I would love to give it some more love. And I think my plan is, as I'm finishing up colors and things like that, especially now that I'm restash, this is solely from Stash, my color scheme, except for the border DMC color. And this is on a 36 count pair. Oh, I love this piece. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to work on it again. It's a huge piece of linen. But it'll be fun to be able to use up, you know, especially now that I've kind of gotten some more floss in and beefed up my stash of overdyes and things like that to be able to pull this back out. So that will be getting love, just not a finish. Rampant Cats will not get a finish. I am going to be tearing that out and going darker because, again, I just want to be Emily, and she was smart and I was not. Never actually met Emily. Like a little overwhelming that I keep saying I want to be her. This will get finished. I love this. It's so close right now. So it's one of the Prairie Schooler Santas, and I think it's '09. Yeah, it's on the skates. '09 or '07. 9. I redid it for Flyers colors. So it is, I'm not really a sports fan, but I love Gritty, who is the mascot for the Flyers. So the reason it's not done yet is because my mom is helping me chart a tiny little Gritty head to go here. If you haven't seen Gritty, okay, so like Philadelphia is like huge sports fanatics, right? Philly fanatic, like all the sports teams. So they told the hockey teams that they had to come up with a mascot. The Flyers didn't really want to, apparently, so they came up with this like nightmare thing called Gritty. And it was released, and Philly was like, what are you talking about? This thing's awful. Like, it's like terrifying. And then the world was kind of like, what are you talking about? This thing is awful. It's terrifying. And Philly was like, don't talk about our mascot. And so Gritty has become like he is awesome. Yes, there are beers named after Gritty, Nightmare Fuel, like the googly eyes, like you should look him up. He is my favorite. So I'm a Gritty fan. So I have a project bag with Gritty fabric somewhere, but I don't know where it is. So this will get finished this year. Just have to, my mom's helping me. I would like this one to get finished, but I doubt it will. It is Ivy Wed by Prairie Moon. It was my anniversary start. I am changing colors though, and so I realized as I pulled it out, I'm not always the best. I didn't write down what colors I was changing, and I didn't like what I was doing, so I ended up ripping out, and I'm going to be kind of rethinking what colors I'm putting where. So I do know that it's like a navy blue and things, and I'm not doing that, but our wedding color was green. I'm like sweating in here. So I want to have some green into it. This I started at the beginning of the year. It will be okay. I feel like is the mantra for the year. It's on the same fabric as my Merry Xmas. And then I'm using a rusty amber and gray for the color. I just love the idea of having some Hebrew up in my house. It was gifted to me by Zippy Zax. I haven't showed this one in a while, guys. Consider the lilies. It will be finished this year. It will. So don't have that much more to do. We'll be pulling it out during the next marathon. My mom and I have kind of gotten off on our Sunday stitches just because life has been unpredictable and a little bit crazy. I am stitching this on 40 count Starflower, I think, by Lakeside. Called for colors. My mom is doing hers on a 35 count with the DMC, and we are stitching them together. It will be out during the next marathon, and I am shooting for a finish this year. Also, I don't know if I've showed this one. This is the alphabet blocks. This is on 40 count Country Mocha. And I'm doing 3 rows of the letters. This is another one I'm selling along with my friend Laura. But I am putting it aside until I get some other stuff going and done. So it was my intention to try to do a block a month, but it's just not going to happen right now. And Pandemic Sampler, which will not get finished, but I started this for my birthday this year along with, because again, Emily, her birthday is soon after mine, and so I wasn't starting a whole bunch of other stuff, but she started it for hers, so I counted it as my birthday start since they're kind of close together. It's my first time stitching with the X Jude fabrics, and I love it. Which is good because I bought a bunch for next year. This one will get finished, and my plan for this one, Brandon is doing Extra Life, and so when he is doing his Extra Life marathon, I'm going to stitch on this and try to marathon along with him. So unofficial 24 hours, the weekend after 24 2 weekends after. I think it's November 6th, whenever that is. So if you'd like to join along, we're going to be stitching, and he's going to be streaming and playing video games. I'm going to be stitching, and he's going to be giving this one away. So I am stitching this, and again, I'm stitching it for him to give away and auction off. So I will be putting time into it during his streaming and getting it finished so that it can go off to a new owner. So if you are interested in joining us or donating, he has his Extra Life up and ready to go. Those are my WIPs. My hair is drenched because I am sweating, so I am going to take another brief break, and then I will be back to talk to you a little bit about 222. Okay, here we go. Let's finish this one out. This might be my longest filming yet, guys. So, a little bit of brief discussion about 222, and then I will be back eventually to fill you in a little bit more about what my plans are with it. So I had decided that I had to do something kind of epic for my 40th birthday. Just had to happen. And I was toying with 82 starts because I was born in 1982, but that, I don't know, when you start 31 things generally, in the month of March consistently, I felt like it had to be a little bit bigger. So I was talking to my mom one night over wine, and I said, maybe I should do a start a day. And she's like, that's a little nuts, Jen. And then I was like, well, it is 2/22 is when I it's the date of my birth, and it's on 2022. I could do 222 starts. Am I nuts? And she actually didn't say that I was nuts. So I was like, oh, I was expecting her to talk me down. She didn't. So that means that I thought that I had the go ahead to do it. So I decided, okay. When I was thinking of 82, I was having a hard time narrowing down what I was going to do. Because I like to have a reason why I do everything. So I decided that 222, I was going to break it down. So I started making lists, because that's what I do, of the different categories that I like to stitch, because I'm a very thematic stitcher. And so I started to think, okay, well, I like whales, and I like owls, and I like foxes, and I like Christmas, and I like October, Halloween, and I like, so I went through. Ended up coming up with 19 categories. Hear me out with this one. Decided that I should then try to get it to be broken down. So I took the 19 categories and I came up with 12 projects for each one. So each of the categories would be represented, not quite all 19, because the math doesn't work out if you're following along with math. I ended up coming up with, let me count them. So I'll tell you what the categories are so that you can understand and follow me a little bit here. So the first category is a year at Hawk Run Hollow. So for the most part, except for this one, when I do a category, it's going to have a different designer for all 12 projects, because I'm going to do a project for that category for each month of the year. So my first category, year at Hawk Run Hollow, that's the only one that's a little bit different. Then we've got insects, which is a new category for me, but I stitch bees, and I've been craving moths and things like that. So I realized that my downstairs bathroom kind of is a perfect place to display these things, because it's kind of outdoorsy and again has that camping vibe. So I decided to do insects. So this category is where it kind of starts with the 12. So I'm going to have 12 different projects by 12 different designers to represent this. And then these projects, what I did was I picked a date of the month that these projects would be done on. So I don't know if I have, so the insects one is going to be done on the 8th of every month. So be it January, be it, August, every 8th, I'm going to start a project that has to do with insects, creepy crawlies. And the reason why it's 8 is because spiders have 8 legs. Tried to have reasons. Whales and nautical is another one of my categories. So again, it's going to have 12 different things, and then it's going to go through and be in the different categories. Those are starting on the 4th. I believe this one is because the book of Jonah in the Bible has 4 chapters. Not every month has a reason, but a lot of them do. Owls is another one. 12 different things, 12 different categories, or 12 different designers. Houses. This one's on the 9th because we bought our house on April 9th. Coffee and tea. That's at 10 o'clock because if I don't have coffee by 10 o'clock, I'm guaranteed to have a headache. Guys, I don't know how my head works. Dark 13, so on the 13th of the month, I'm going to be starting something that is some sort of dark October stitching. Monochromatic, and I'm doing monochromatic that it has 2 or less colors in it. That is not, I don't think it has a specific reason why that date was. Woodland, because I wanted to kind of ease up on my foxes. So it's foxes, squirrels, different things like that. Mostly foxes, but there's a few squirrels thrown in there. Birds, it's another one. This one is on the 19th, I believe. That's because it's Edgar Allan Poe's birthday on the 19th of the month. I think January. Pets, I'm going to be doing that on the 20th of the month because Watson's birthday is on the 20th. The 22nd will be my excited start. So it's a project that I've been wanting to start and I'm really not sure why I haven't started it yet. The 24th is going to be something quirky, time, or hobby related because of 24 hours and how I still don't understand how you guys have embraced that the way you have. I appreciate it, but quirkiness. The 25th will be a Christmas piece. 26th will have something to do with alphabets. 26 letters of the alphabet. 28th will be something stitching. That's because size 28 needle is my favorite. 31st will be Halloween. However, not every month has Halloween on it. So it's only going to be on the months that have a 31st, but that's another category. And this is where they don't quite fit into the categories anymore. So also I will have a category for miscellaneous holidays. So this is where like my marathon starts are going to come into. Also, I picked something to do a start for Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, New Year, New Start, our anniversary, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. And I think those are the holidays that I selected. And then also my last category is Madness. So I am going to be fully doing Stitch Madness again this year, which will be 31 starts, 31 different designers in the month of March. So I have the designers loaded in from the categories, but then I also identified however many additional projects I needed to have in order to make it be 31 for the month. So 19 different categories, different tabs on my spreadsheet. And then I decided, well, I was born in 1982. How can I signify the 82? So I have figured out, and it is correct as of right now, 82 different designers. So somehow, and it can only be that this was meant to happen, that all fell into place. And I have a project identified for 222 different days, 222 starts throughout the year. As I was choosing them, I was mindful of several things. 1, I tend to gravitate towards really big projects. I did not want to walk away from this month with 1,000 huge projects, 222 huge projects. I knew that could not happen. So what I did was I was very mindful. I created multiple spreadsheets. I don't remember how to share my screen, so that will have to be in a later video if people actually have interest and want to see the spreadsheets. I can definitely do that. But as I was planning this, I knew that I needed these to be feasible, to be able to be finished at some point. So I was very mindful of categories. So I like I said earlier, I do delineate my stitching and I decide each project has a size category, and I use the Stitch for Stash mathematical equation, how they figure their stuff out to figure out my sizes. So I take the stitch count and I add it together and then I divide it by 2. If it's under 49 or under, it counts as a mini. If it's between 50 and 99, so like say a project is 45 plus 46. Like it's 45 across, 46 down. That's going to give me 45 and a half. So it's going to be a mini. A small is 50 to 99 for me, medium 100 to 149, large 150 to 249, and big ass project is anything 250 and plus. So that's how I decide my stitch kit size. So I knew that I didn't want to go into this coming out with a whole bunch of huge projects. So I really tried to be mindful of that. So as it is right now, and I may be making a few changes, I have 5 mini projects, 94 small projects, 68 medium projects, 45 large projects, and 10 big ass projects. So I felt like that was a fairly good, like, those smalls, I'm going to be able to knock them out. And I may be even able to feasibly knock them out during the year. Typically when I do new starts like this, or the times that I've done it before, I only work on that project for the day, but I'm not going to set myself to that. I'm going to give myself, I want 40 minutes of progress on the project that I'm starting. And I'm going to try as hard as I can to stick to my calendars that I've made, but I know that things might come up and I'm not going to not go and celebrate a friend's wedding because, I have to start this project. So, I'm still going to live my life. And, if it means that I have to catch up and do things like that, and if it means I fail this 222, I fail it. But I think I'm setting myself up reasonably to start it. What I then did, so I identified all my projects, and I've told you guys before, I'm not good with paper. Like, I do much better scanned. So I do scan all my projects, and I have a running record of what I have. And so I went through and I really tried to pick things that I've wanted to stitch for a long time. So I've had these identified for months now. So it's not going to be a lot of new starts that you're seeing out at, Expo and Market and that kind of stuff. It's stuff that I've had in my stash that I've wanted to stitch. So I think very minimal money went towards patterns as I did this. I went through for each month, and each month has a binder that has a cover sheet like this that talks that outlines when my starts are going to be happening. Again, ideally, each size category has a different color, so I know that I'm kind of spacing them out. Also, as I plan them throughout the months, I tried to be mindful of not starting things of the same designer consistently, like together. So, the 12 different categories are different, but it doesn't mean that in January I'm not going to start 2 things by the same designer. And then in my binder, I've got all of my working copies that kind of go through and show what I'm going to be working on. My mom is assembling project bags. She has my list, and she is kind of helping me pick fabric that's going to coordinate. I have this whole stack of project bags that I can, reuse, but I am that thematic type person that likes to have everything, kind of connect. And she thankfully understands that and plays right along with me. So I'm doing that. Then I went through, kitting up this amount of things. Like I said before, I wanted to be mindful of what stash I had. So I went through and as I was deciding on my projects, I was also mindful of, is this something that I'm going to stitch with DMC? Is this something that I want in the called for colors? I don't want to pick 222 things that are all stitched with silks. So I really was purposeful with that. I also have been very heavily going through what stash I have. So then what I did was I made little cards like this. It's a kit list. So it has, and they're color coded based on the 24-hour planner's colors. So this green is March. So I know easily when I'm looking at it that this project is going to be a March start. I indicate what the pattern is, who the designer is, the stitch count, my size that it's going to be, so then which category it's going to be. And then right here is like the called for floss. And then I have a spot that's going to be stored with the project that I can decide if I'm going to stick with that floss or if I'm going to change it. And then at the bottom, I have the expected start date that I'm going to be doing it. So I went through and I made one of those for each of the projects that goes along with my 222. And then, as I've been pulling floss, I first went through all of my pre-cut floss that's been sitting and utilizing in different things. So I've got, this is actually not a good example of that one. So then I've got this little box. I have 4 of these little boxes, and they are lined up according to the start date. So you can see all of the January things are in this blue color. Then we're going to go, we've got some February, which is going to be this red. And then we've got back to the March. And so each month was doing this. And what I did was I made a floss list of all the floss I was going to need. And then I sorted it by start date. Because honestly, I don't have to have everything kitted up and ready to go at the beginning of the year. Because I'm going to have time during the year to kit it up. Like I said, I'm wanting 40 minutes of devoted stitching on something before either, putting it down or moving on to something else or whatnot. So my goal is to have fully kitted up through April. Because since March is a started day, that's a heavy month to try to stop. But then I can be focusing on April on continuing to kit as I go. So as I pulled my flosses, I went through and I have a spreadsheet that indicates all the floss I'm going to need. And I've just been putting it in a baggie that goes along with it. So, it just lists it all here. I haven't gone through and checked them off yet, but I will be. My floss list has about 1,700 things on it. It's a little ridiculous. But it's all listed. I will be sharing some of my overdyed flosses. So what I did was I indicated on my spreadsheet, okay, so I'm going to be using this in Cinnamon Stars, but it's also going to be used in this project. So that way I know which skein of overdyed is going from project to project, so I don't have to worry about dye lots. And I'm doing this because a lot of the gast I get is the 10-yard skeins. So I know I can get more than one project out of it. So I can kind of look through, and I've been deliberate with, if it only has a couple stitches, maybe I'm just going to sub in a different color. And then I have it. I will not share floss with more than 3 projects because I think that will be hard to track. But again, with the little kit cards and my spreadsheet, I think I'll be able to keep track of where the floss is. So I'm starting it in the project that starts chronologically the first, and then I know, okay, so I've started Cinnamon Stars in January, and I'm going to be starting something else that's going to be calling that in April, so I know that it's starting in January's, and then it will travel to April's. I believe keeping things in here, I'm going to be able to stack things alongside there, so I'm not going to need all the bins once I get them in project bags. And some I think I'll be able to start and finish, during the month or during the year. When I planned my dates that things were starting, I tried to do it so that I was giving myself several days off in a row then as well. So it wasn't just start, done. But that I was, okay, I can either do catch up on these days or I can work on a different project. Because like I said, I still want to work through my WIPs, and I want to be giving some, dedicated time to some of those big projects that haven't gotten any love this year, to get them out at least for a week during the year so that I know they're getting some progress. So I'm kind of at that point now. I like to pull floss before I do fabric. I've gone through and I've identified what the called for fabric is for every project. I generally don't stick with called for fabrics, but that way I know if I have it, I could if I wanted to. You see the bins over here. Those are my fabrics for right now. I've been picking up fat quarters and half yards and, where I can, kind of spreading my budget out this year so that I had it available for later. And I've been severely spoiled by my mom, who has been picking stuff up for me anytime she puts an order or goes to a shop or does anything. She's like, what do you need? So she's been severely blessing me with that. I have another bin full of fabrics. So I think I'm actually gonna be okay. I just have to start kind of playing that map now of, okay, I've got a fat quarter. How many pieces can I get out of this? When I first did Stitch Madness, I made like a grid that actually, showed, okay, I can fit project here and then one over here and then one down here, So I don't know that I'll have to go that deep, but that's going to be a day that Mom's going to come over and play with me, and we are going to just try to pick fabrics and start doing some of that cutting. Again, I don't think I'll be going much further than April with that until I actually get started. But we'll see if I have some fabrics that I know for sure a project is going to be on. Like I'm starting the 99 bottles by Ink Circles. And so I know I want that on the ale fabric because it's beer and it's a beer color, you know? So like I feel like that should be on that. I also just went ahead and I ordered a whole bunch of floss from Victorian Motto. So I picked up the limited editions August. These colors are not showing well because my lighting is not great. This yellow I love. It's like a mustard and I have to stitch something with it, but I don't know what yet. Especially for those monochromatic pieces that I think could, you know, just be in the one solid color. So that's kind of where I am. My whole basement downstairs, like I said, I have 4 of the little bins full of these little project cards, kit cards. The process has been pretty easy so far though. So I'm hoping that it will continue. I'm sure there will be times that I feel completely overwhelmed and curse myself for wanting to do this, but you know, I'm not planning a big hurrah for my 40th birthday. This is it, you know? So I feel like it's just worth it to commemorate the event and celebrate it doing what I enjoy doing, which is stitching. You know, it's how I find my calm. That's going to be my focus of my 40th year is self-care, calm by being crazy. I'm not exactly sure, you know, whatever. So I'm not going to try to stitch 220 or cook 222 recipes. I'm probably going to rely on HelloFresh like I've been doing because I don't have to think about it. And, you know, just easing up on some of the other areas of my life. But I'm trying to just kind of incorporate it with everything I'm doing and have fun while it's happening. So if it brings you happiness, go for it, guys. Whew, I've talked a long time. I am hoping next year we're looking into the feasibility of setting up like a permanent filming spot so that as I do my starts, I can get like a 3-minute blurb of this is what I started today, you know, blah, 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 this is the fabric, and then post those monthly is kind of my plan for that, and then be able to film on a more regular basis just of my other stitching and the things that are getting more than just the dedicated 40 minutes for 222. I am using the hashtags too many whips. So thank you. I forget who came up with that. Was it Wrought Iron Stitcher? I think it was. Thank you. I believe she's turning 42. There's a bunch of us that are kind of all in that age bracket. I believe Emily's planning 40 starts for her birthday in March. You know, it's just fun. Let's enjoy what we do, and I don't know, I don't buy clothes, I don't spend money on makeup, I might as well spend it on stitching. So that's my plan. It has been super good to reconnect with all you guys. Again, I'm really hoping to get into a consistent pattern of doing this at least monthly so that it's not quite so long in between and that I can really keep you up with what's happening in my world. Other than that, you know, things are good. Brandon's good. We're coming up on our 11th wedding anniversary in a few weeks, which is crazy. Match.com, 11 years. Who would have thought? And, you know, the animals are all good. The cats are huge. Watson is a little brat. She's been clingy to me. I'm not sure why. She used to be Brandon's girl, but she seems to be mine now. So I think I had other things I wanted to talk about and things that I wanted to say about things, but guys, I'm talked out. So I'm going to go probably order some pizza because it is now like 7 o'clock and I'm not cooking tonight. I had set out stuff for HelloFresh, but not going to happen. I'm going to finish drinking my little energy boost and hopefully I'll find something that I can eat and stitch. I haven't stitched yet today. I need to make that happen. So it has been good. Keep making those X's, finding your calm, and doing what you do. And I will see you soon because it's marathon month. So I'm back and going to be definitely participating in this month's marathon. So thank you all for being part of this community. Bye, guys.